Do you know why the American government had to make black children betray their grandparents by making them believe that they came from Africa? That's because they stole this country from us and they wanted our parents to give away the land that our ancestors owned for thousands of years. See, what they won't tell you is that when we started integrating into their schools after the Indian Civil Rights Act of 1968, they taught our parents a fake history and they started teaching them Africanism.
Someone didn't pay attention in school. Nigga, that history in school was fake as hell. Especially for my people. Nigga, they told us, nigga, we was just slaves. Nigga, my people was studying all type of shit. The maps was different, everything.
You know, every single textbook we got as a kid came from a Mossad agent.
Oh my fucking God.
Yeah.
Not my Texas history book. not all 11 of them.
The simple narrative taught in every history class is demonstrably false and pedagogically classist. Don't you know the world is built with blood and genocide and exploitation?
Because we were killing them.
They had to get several nations just against us. We got jumped.
Well, we did.
Well, let me just say
Definitely hijacked.
And again, well, let me, before you say
go ahead.
We did have government established before they came here. The first president was not George Washington.
They had like 6 presidents before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had way more.
I know.
So imagine how fake history is, bro. Guess what? When you look up who owns the history books that every single school in America has, guess what? It's owned by the same fucking people. So let's say hypothetically you wanted to come up with a lie that really, really convinced people of a certain narrative. Well, how would you go about that in the most efficient way possible? Well, I would want to own every single history textbook and I would want to own every single news channel. And I would just shove it down their throats from the day that they could conceptualize history. I would shove it down their throats in the form of a movie, on the news, and get them reading it in class where they're supposed to be trusting everything their teacher says. So it seems 100% real because someone they trust is saying it.
Where in the American history textbooks are the first 6 black presidents? I'll wait. And where in the American the U.S. textbooks is Abraham Lincoln black, showing the real Abraham Lincoln? I'll wait. She was expelled from her public school for writing a paper on blacks in government. Not Barack Obama, but the first 6 presidents of the United States of America. Hi everyone, this is Ariel Jillian. Welcome back to my channel. So, American history, American textbooks is a lie? Well, a lot of American history and American textbooks are under judgment right now because of these narratives that they're spinning towards our American children. So we're going to look at some of these TikToks and then I'm going to do some commentary in between and some more at the end.
Do you know why the American government had to make black children betray their grandparents by making them believe that they came from Africa? That's because they stole this country from us and they wanted our parents to give away the land that our ancestors owned for thousands of years. See, what they won't tell you is that when we started integrating into their schools after the Indian Civil Rights Act of 1968, they taught our parents a fake history and they started teaching them Africanism. They taught them that they came from Africa on slave ships. And if you ask your grandparents or your great-grandparents, if they're about 70 years old, Grandma, did you learn in school that you were a slave or that your people came from Africa? They will tell you no and that they didn't hear anything about that. I told my grandma this and she said, these white people crazy.
Nigga, that history in school was fake as hell. Especially for my people. Nigga, they told us, nigga, we was just slaves. Niggas ain't even about black and white at this point. They don't give a fuck who you are. Nigga, they kill their own. These wars. Y'all ain't never seen this many people just aware of shit now. I told y'all, I've been telling niggas on this channel for a long ass time. It's gonna come a point in time you're gonna be forced to wake up because everything you're gonna believe gonna keep getting challenged. And then you just gonna be mad at the person. Just Google it. That's compromise. Every time you say something, oh, Google it. Google is free. They got the same scripted responses. Someone didn't pay attention in school. Nigga, that history in school was fake as hell. Especially for my people. Nigga, they told us, nigga, we was just slaves. Nigga, my people was studying all type of shit. The maps was different, everything. But this ain't even about black and white. At this point, they don't give a fuck who you are, nigga. They're killing you.
Nigga, you an animal, they killing you too, bitch.
They don't give a fuck about nothing.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there because she said a few different points. Like, there comes a time in history where everyone is forced to wake up, and that time is now. You know, you can't just block someone because you don't like the truth that they're saying, which has happened in the past, especially for me. I had to lose a lot of people in my life because I stood on truth. And I'm always going to stand on truth. And this is a time where everyone needs to wake up, and we need to look at these hard truths about American history and about American textbooks and what is put on our kids. Because when you're taught something from a very young age, it's kind of hard to get out of that programming because you trusted these people, right? I used to be a high school teacher, and teaching children is one of my favorite passions. And it saddens me, and it angers me when these lies are not getting addressed and these kids grow up thinking that they are inferior because of these lies. So it just needs to stop.
When we was coming up in elementary, you know, they had all these motherfucking textbooks showing us how Christopher Columbus and all them other extra Europeans came over here to our land and took over shit. Or let alone say they founded this shit. They founded America. They was going to war with the so-called Indians that they put in that book with straight hair, quote-unquote YT skin. It was the cowboys and shit like that going to war with the Indians. Who the fuck you think them Indians was? Who the fuck you think them indigenous people was? That was us. All that history that they put in the motherfucking textbooks, that was about us. They was going to war with us for our motherfucking land. Yeah, we are not no goddamn slaves. We are prisoners of war. We may have lost that war, but we ain't lose the battle because the battle is still motherfucking going. This shit is still going. We trying to get all the shit that they took back from us in tenfold. We trying to get that shit back. Let that be some history for your motherfucking ass. They wasn't coming over here fighting no people that straight hair. Man, these Indians had locks. These Indians had copper skin. These indigenous people look just like the indigenous people of today, like me and you. They separated our ass. Let that be some history for your ass. Peace, love, and light.
What he said was great. And it's not that our history, and see, this is another thing about, you know, young American history. One, they gloss over a lot of it, right? And then they only have a few certain points, right? And so when you're a kid, you just get the few certain points, right? And so the biggest point that Black Americans get for American Indigenous is that we were slaves, and that's it. And it's like, that's not even true. The real story is that we were prisoners of war, right? This was our own land. People wanted control of our land. And so the way they did that was they rewrote the stories, rewrote the history to keep us in that state of being prisoners of war. And we still are to this day fighting this. And I'm going to go back to the other TikTok where he said, they don't care about anyone anymore, right? It's not just us. Everybody is suffering from the lies, right? So when I bring these truths out, I'm not just trying to help American Indigenous, right? It's everybody was lied to. Everybody. And they don't care about anyone, right? The devil does not care about a single person. So, you know, once these truths surface, everyone is going to benefit from this, not just our people.
American history is really painted out to be like Black American ancestors were some helpless, subservient slaves who was getting beat and mistreated and all shit. And that shit could not be further from the fucking truth. Because don't get me wrong, you do have some of our folks that will bite their tongue, but if it ever got out of control, like it ain't nothing to, you feel me? Like, we never played like that. And I also came across a couple of video footages in archives, you know, in response to the things that were going on in regards to like what would be said back. And even then, like, it was a telltale sign that that woman wasn't really playing none of that fuck shit. She had said that the slave master had said, oh, when's the last time you washed da da da? And she had said, I washed so and so. He said, oh, I order. She said, and I order. You feel me? I feel like when we talk about the people who were subservient to abuse and stuff like that, like really subservient to abuse, that's Europeans. We gotta understand, it was a lot of white slaves here, okay? When they was coming over here, they was coming over here as slaves because they were coming here poor. These people were poor as fuck. Like, their economy had just collapsed and shit like that. So that's why they was sitting here traveling and stuff like that, trying to find a new beginning. Their nation had nothing. Like I said, all nations were cursed except for this part, North America. Like I said, you could, back then, you could tell we were favored by the Most High just based off how fertile the land was. Land makes money. All right, that's where money is, in your land, in your resources. The land provides your resources. So nevertheless, like, you ask, okay, why is the world falling apart? Why is there so much evil? Well, that's what happens when you allow people who were not supposed to be in power become in power. How the fuck did white people become in power? I don't know yet. I don't know yet. It is my belief that they did nothing more than use How to Train a Dog, because like I said, they was coming over here with Massive and stuff like that, and just turn that psychology into human psychology and really tricked y'all out your spot. So truth be told, you really got tricked out your spot. I mean, it is what it is. We could get into details, but you feel me? They did so much over the years. It's more than just one thing. But in other words, in simple terms, they lied to you and tricked you out your position. They're not supposed to be running this country. We are. This is our home.
The simple narrative taught in every history class is demonstrably false and pedagogically classist. Don't you know the world is built with blood and genocide and exploitation? The global network of capital essentially functions to separate the worker from the means of production, and the FBI killed Martin Luther King. Private property's inherently theft, and neoliberal fascists are destroying the left, and every politician, every cop on the street protects the interests of the pedophilic corporate elite. That is how the world works. Really? That is how the world works.
So this is how you know slavery ain't really happened. Tell me why modern day 2025, we don't have any boats coming directly from Africa to America. There's no way to get to Africa on a boat. There's no way. I've been to Africa. I know. There's no way to get to Africa on the boat today. And we supposedly have better technology today, right? But yet in 2020, and I asked myself this as a kid. I'm like, so we got here, because you know everything we got. I know it's hard for y'all to believe that everything you learned in school was a lie. Everything they taught you in school was a lie. So if they taught you got over here on boats, baby, you been here. If they taught you that it's red, baby, it's blue. Y'all get what I'm saying? Y'all know these are programming centers, right? They're not schools to teach us and help us evolve and become our best versions, right? No. They're programming centers, right? So if anybody came over here on boats, we know it was the West Indians, the Caribbeans, the South Americans, you know, somebody close. Nobody came from Africa on no boats. And we know that Caribbeans is us. They're the chosen ones as well. We know that. So let's stop with the lies. Let's stop miseducating our people. Let's quit telling our kids lies that we learned in school, when we all know the school system is here to fail us. Y'all know in America we have like the worst school system. Like, we're rated like last. Like, can we please quit teaching our kids what we learned in school? Like, self-love is the best love. When you start to love yourself, go within, focus on evolving, focus on becoming your best version, to become your higher self. Because as you raise your frequency, the planet of the earth rises, right? So that means you're doing your part. Just focus on self-love and evolution, and the truth will come to you. The truth is all from within. It's a collective consciousness. We all one, baby. It's all love.
Yeah, she hit it right there. You know, right now, America has one of the worst educational systems. And, you know, as a former teacher, high school teacher, I believe that's because of all the lies that are still in our textbooks and the lies that we still keep teaching our American children. And it's just not fair to them. And I don't know why this is not a bigger topic or a bigger subject, because this is our future generation, and we just let them go to school every year with the same curriculum, and we're not questioning these things because America is getting worse and worse every single year. So we need to do there needs to be something that needs to happen.
Every single textbook we got as a kid came from a Masada. By the way, McGraw-Hill, you know who started that? Ghislaine Maxwell's dad. Robert Maxwell owns, every single textbook we got as a kid came from a Mossad agent.
Oh my fucking God.
Yeah.
Not my Texas history book. not all 11 of them.
Okay, who's McGraw-Hill?
They made all the textbooks, right? You ever look at your textbook?
When you were a little kid, it was made by McGraw-Hill.
Oh, that's the publisher.
That's the publisher.
Oh my God.
That was apparently founded by
Jeffrey
Epstein's
girlfriend's dad.
This is how evil the Epsteins were. Not only were they kids, they were also giving them homework.
Yes.
It's like, damn, bro.
That's messed up.
That's crazy.
Big ass book
Yeah,
too.
I know, right?
Carry these around your backpack.
You had to cover the book yourself.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. You had to give it its own yarmulke.
Oh my God, dude. We did. That was the thing. We had to cover our own books. They wanted us to cover it up so you couldn't see who made it.
I wonder what company owns the book cover.
I don't know.
The company that takes all the school pictures.
No, you're right. That's like big news right now.
Yeah.
Are you schools this year are canceling their school pictures because of this connection?
Yeah, the company is heavily connected to Epstein.
So they've been sending our photos over there too?
Probably. That's
just picking us out. Just picking us out of the school yearbook.
A draft board, Mel Kiper style, of every picture of every kid in America, and they're just sitting there.
Yeah, like a fantasy draft.
I am never making fun of a homeschool kid again.
I can't deal. I had to walk away. Like, this is the owner of the textbooks, right? McGraw-Hill, and they're connected to the Epsteins. It's ridiculous if we don't start seeing these connections and taking them seriously, you know?
What if I told you our true history is hidden in books that are hundreds of years old? If you want the real history of the indigenous tribes of the Americas and the process of colonialism, you have to invest in expensive books, some of which you can't even buy in the US. Exhibit A, A Popular History of the United States from the Aboriginal Times to Present Day, written in 1876. This book cost me $180. Let's take a look. In this book, you can find a map of the United States with the different territories marking the tribes of those areas. Here we have a description of the phenotype of the American Indians. Eyes jet black and sunken, hair black and straight, beard black and scant, skin copper colored and reddish black. Again, I say copper colored and reddish black. I don't have to tell you what color copper is, do I? And we also have a clear timeline of the colonization of the Americas from the 1100s to the 1600s and all the different European factions that worked to subjugate our ancestors. Exhibit B, and this one is a real gem. Diasporas within a diaspora. Jews, crypto-Jews, and the world of maritime empires from 1540 to 1740. This book was over $300 and I had to import it from the United Kingdom. It's written by a Jewish Ivy League professor and he tells the truth of the secret Jewish involvement in the colonization of the Americas. Let's take a look. Western Sephardic Jewry fulfilled a highly distinctive and perhaps unique set of functions throughout the maritime, commercial, and colonial expansion of Europe from 1492 down to the late 18th century. This was especially true in the case of the mid and southern Atlantic, the Caribbean, and in Western Europe's relations with the Islamic North Africa and the Near East. over large expanses of the globe, Sephardic Jews and the crypto-Jews of Iberian background associated with them contributed conspicuously and in fundamental ways to the growing dominance over international trade, shipping, and finance of the leading commercial centers of the West, and hence also of the 6 great seaborne empires of the age, the Venetian, Portuguese, Spanish, Dutch, English, and French. Come on, y'all. Spanish, Portuguese, English, Dutch, French. All of the European empires that colonized our ancestral homeland. And guess what? You may have thought that this faction was Dutch or that this faction was Spanish, but secretly among the ranks are crypto-Jews. But let's keep reading. In chapter 12, it says, Gershom Scholem attributed a fundamental role in the shaping of Jewish mysticism and spirituality to the psychological and cultural impact of political and social upheavals affecting the Jews. In particular, he identified the expulsion from Spain in 1492. Come on, y'all. The expulsion from Spain in 1492. That date should have some significance to you. 1492, that's the same year Christopher Columbus set sail for the New World. So you're telling me coincidentally, the same time that Christopher Columbus is sailing to the Americas is the same time that the Jews are getting kicked out of Spain. And if you know, you know, his name was never Christopher Columbus. That's his angelicized a British name. His real name was Cristobal Colon, and he was also a Sephardic crypto-Jew. If you want to see a full list of banned, forgotten, and suppressed books about our indigenous heritage, go to nativebblackancestry.com and check out my curated book list.
The history books that we were taught in school, especially on the collegiate level, with the study of African American history being mandated at all HBCUs, it's been brought to my attention that those documents were falsified. Lots of researchers have been trying to find the slave ships for years, and no one has found them. Not because they're lost at sea, but because they never existed. Now, the boats that did exist were the boats that were bringing indentured servants over, and we all have records for those. Now, the records that we have for those boats, people names were changed from the names that they had when they came here, like Goldsberg and Wanatsky and Slavatsky, and they were all changed to names like Johnson, Jackson, and so forth.
2 things right there. Okay, the first one is about the African American studies in colleges and universities. I'm going to be digging a lot more into this topic because it is imperative that we get to the bottom of this propaganda and the fact that they are falsely miseducating American Indigenous in these colleges and universities. Now, I completely understand that there are African and other Caribbean immigrants that come to America to study higher education. And so for them going to African American studies, it would make sense, right? But also a lot of what they're telling us about African American studies in colleges is very false. And it needs to be re-examined by some fresh eyes, because there were no slave ships like that brought millions of people over. That was just entirely false. And it needs to be questioned. And then also, they really flipped history, how she was talking about how the last names got changed to our last names, like Johnson and Jones and stuff like that. That is very telling. That is very telling, because they wanted to tell us that, oh, it was the slave masters' names that we got. No, it was the other way around. It was the Slavic people who came over here and changed their names to assimilate more into us. And so there's just so many lies on the board. But colleges and universities definitely need to be checked, because that is higher education in America. And the fact that we're not teaching our HBCU children what's really going on and what their real history is, it just needs to be questioned.
And when you was falling asleep in school, you knew by soul that was not no fucking true information. Your soul made sure the body went to sleep. Your soul and your ancestors made sure you didn't receive that shit, even though subconsciously you still did. And that's why even when you woke up, you believed these things to be true, but you always felt within your heart that they weren't. See, there's a reason why children fall asleep in history class that look like me. You fell asleep because you had already fell in frequency and they were trying to keep you there. Okay, and then they're sitting here telling you about all these agents, the Frederick Douglasses and the Harriet Tubmans, like as if they did something so drastically great. Well, anytime a white person plasters you and puts you above the all and say, this is a good nigga right here, that means they did something for us. And or something for the hidden hand behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz. Follow me. See, much like when a child experiences a certain level of trauma, they begin to block out memories. So as they get older, they don't remember their childhood because there was so much trauma. It's a way to protect the brain, the mind, the psychological state, your emotional space. That's the same thing you do as a child and or an adult, but definitely as a child with a small developing brain. You go to sleep in class because something about the information you're receiving is either not being produced to you well, given to you great enough, and or it's just a lie. And the soul said, go to sleep.
So I need you guys to understand that the African slave trade only happened in 13 states. And then 16 slave states that the other 3 they acquired after that. So why are you teaching our children that they are slaves from another country off of a boat that don't even dock nowhere? There was no West African slave trade. There's a North African slave trade. So I'm going to tell you why they're teaching your children that. So that your children will become inferior and then they can feed them to the preschool to prison pipeline. Let me tell you another reason why. Because American Indians are protected by treaties. North Africans are protected by the longest standing treaty in United States history. That's why. And so they could steal your land. There's no reason to teach children outside of the 13 colonies where the slave trade happened that they're slaves unless you are teaching them inferiority. So it is unlawful and discrimination to erase the 1682 law of the baby follows the belly that enslaved American Indian women, mulatto children, Mesito children. With Mesito is North African mixed with American Indian. And so they erased all of this out of history and then continue to tell us a story as if we are the 5% of Africans that arrived here. No, we're not. And the lie is coming from them omitting the truth in public school. So if you indoctrinate a kid from 4 to 18 that they are nothing and they came from nothing, what are they going to believe? That they're worthless. Don't let them do that.
It is absolutely crazy how much the history textbooks lie. I grew up in California where there's the mission system. And so every year, or for 4th graders, they had to make a mission project. We were taught that the mission system was beneficial to the native people because it taught them Christianity and gave them a place to live. And it was fucking slavery and colonization, and they were, against their will, forced to practice a religion that was not theirs. They were exposed to disease. They were systematically murdered. And we were taught that that was actually okay and something that should be celebrated. And I was in public schools too. That is why I am constantly questioning everything all the time, because just because that is something that is the going narrative doesn't mean that it's true. Because Native voices have always been silenced, even down to the textbooks in your public school. That shit is propaganda. America is not the best country in the world. I'm so sorry to break it to you.
The Statue of Liberty was not a gift from France. That is such a stupid story. Washington Monument, a 555-foot-tall obelisk made of 36,000 stones, each one weighing more than my car, is not to remember this corncob-toothed motherfucker named George Washington. All of these magnificent old structures and buildings we see around us have completely fictional stories attached to them. I believe that when people came to America, they found old-world buildings that are just the same as the old-world buildings in Europe, in Asia, all over the world. And yet, that's not the history. So I think a couple hundred years ago, there used to be a more honest understanding of what the word founded meant. It meant founders keepers, that if you could go and stake a claim, you could have it. All of these old school world fairs, I think they were here to sell real estate. Immigrated to the New World, you could get a little stone palace to yourself if you could found it. And I think that's what happened here in this new world. I think people were turning the lights back on. All of this old tech that used to be around, people were firing it up. People were pretty stoked about this new little founded nation of America. Tons of people were immigrating here from all over the world. And then, I believe in the early 1900s, 1907, there was a reset. Not one as aggressive and intense as what flooded everything. Why all these buildings are buried, I think that was 1,000 years ago. Almost 100 years ago, I think there was a mini reset. A lot of these fires, these great fires broke out about this time. And then we got World War I, Spanish influenza, Great Depression, World War II, and then all of our institutions are still around from then. So I think in the teens, 20s, 30s, there was a total dark ages going on. It's really hard to get any book published before 1935. Everything's been republished. Everything's been updated. If you've seen a bunch of the videos on my channel, you just see how much cover up there is. And people don't ask the most basic of questions, like how did these huge stone buildings get here? And we're told hammer and chisel people did it very easily. Wild West, they came here from nothing and built everything from scratch. Absolute horseshit, if you ask me. I think something much more nefarious has gone on here. I'm hoping we all just keep waking up to this fact so we can actually do something about it.
Yeah, he's on to something right here with the buildings in America. Because if we know real history, right, the Europeans that came over to America were the ones that needed a place to stay, needed a place to live and work, right? So how are all these huge miraculous buildings being made right after they just got established in America? These buildings were already here. These buildings were already here. So they're lying about a lot of things.
Guys, which of these two buildings seems more American? Both, right? And it's weird that it's both. It's especially weird because they both existed at the same time. So the Capitol building started work in 1790 or whatever. Burnt down a few times and swapped architects and there's a whole lot of yada yada. But this is the building that was around before there was indoor plumbing. Before there was any plumbing. Because when they finished this building, the workers, I presume, went to an outhouse and took a shit. That's what our stupid history books tell us. They say plumbing wasn't accessible until 1853. In Washington, D.C. It's like, okay, you guys can carve massive chunks of sandstone, marble, granite, carve it intricately, but you don't have anywhere for your shit to go? You can't make pipes? That's our narrative. The White House, the president was shitting in a chamber pot in the White House. That doesn't make any fucking sense. These horse and buggy people can throw up the most massive, ornate, beautiful buildings that we would struggle to rival today, all by firelight and writing important foundational documents with quills and parchment and shitting in chamber pots. That's our history. And I think that's why they fucking have to normalize us to it. Why every politician stands in front of these buildings and says dumb words on a teleprompter. Like, it's freaky to see the little power line run across the marble stage. It's even weirder to think of them going outside to take a shit, right? Congress has a break and there's no bathroom, so they all go outside and wait their turn in the garden and shit in an outhouse. And then that shit gets carried off by a horse and wagon outside of town. That's some bullshit, guys. I think they founded all the buildings. I think they did shit in them. I think they founded them, and they probably didn't put plumbing in until later. These buildings are not of this timeline. They're not of this narrative. They don't make any fucking sense. We're squatting in them. More ways than one, for years and generations. I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts for why they didn't have plumbing when they can make the fucking Capitol building. Seen old school Photoshop? It's been around as long as photos have been around. For my research, it's very important to keep this in mind because when we look at the construction photos of these old buildings, many of them look like they have been doctored. Case in point, this is the Biltmore Estate in Asheville, North Carolina. Told this building was built in the late 1800s, over 1,000 laborers and 60 stonemasons. And here are the construction photos. And just, do these look at all believable? Look at the little shacks out front of the finished building. The little bit of sleight of hand, you can suddenly conflate founders with builders. What we're told is Mr. George Washington Vanderbilt spent the years that this thing was being built just collecting enough stuff to fill the rooms. There's 250 rooms. It's all made of stone. I told the architect here, Mr. Hunt, is responsible for many magnificent buildings. So this was a cakewalk to him. He just threw it up like it was nothing. Again, the logistics are impossible. Guys, Asheville, North Carolina, nobody lived here. Even if you imported people, what infrastructure are they relying on? Said they had to build a 3-mile stretch of road just to get the supplies there. Like, who's feeding these 1,000 men? Are they living off the land? Legit, they didn't get indoor plumbing and electricity until after the Great Depression for many of these rural communities in North Carolina. Talk to people whose grandparents grew up without electricity and indoor plumbing. So nothing's here except for this enormous castle made of stone, 250 rooms. It was a summer getaway that's gone very quickly. Mr. Vanderbilt died. His wife called uncle after 20 years. He put it up for sale, and now it's a tourist attraction and a hotel. You can pay a ton of money to stay on the estate. I think this building was founded, not built. It's bought with paper money, signed on a deed that's made of paper. There's paper history books with photos printed on them of a con job, stolen valor. And you can keep the house if you can pull it off. That's why everybody asks, they're like, who would do this? Why would they do this? You get to keep castles. Money can only buy so many things. These are marvelous stone palaces that you can feel like a god in. And you bought it with paper money, and you keep it because of pieces of paper. Kicker is, I think there's more underground. There's more stone palaces to be discovered, but we are literally not legally allowed to dig more than 8 feet in any direction in this country. 8 feet down unless you get permits, and the government says it's okay. I'm just tired of being ruled by liars and fraudsters and...
So buildings in America are under judgment because a lot of them point to being here way before America was really founded. And what he said was absolutely crazy because North and South Carolina have some amazing buildings in there. And he said that people are just squatting in them, or they went, they found it, bought it with paper money, and then pretended that they built it. So the truth is coming out. The truth is coming out. And then the next thing, why in America can we only dig 8 feet down and around and over? What do they not want us to find? Right? If this country is so new, right? What do they not want people to look for? The real question.
What are we talking about when we talk about history as we know it in this society?
Today, unfortunately, we're talking generally about lies agreed upon, We're talking about a story which has been put together, ignoring the contributions of most of the people of the world. Most of the people of the world are colored. And so, unfortunately, we've gotten into a thing of trying to interpret history from a European perspective, from a white perspective. In America, we talk about American history, and we're talking generally about white American history. And I've said often, that we glibly talk about American history, but American history, in fact, does not exist yet, and will not exist until we go back to the beginning and take the contributions of black people, of the Native Americans, the Indians, and of white Americans, and blend them together into one great story of what happened in this country.
If the news is fake, imagine how bad history is. We literally all know that the news is propagated and completely fake, all to divide and conquer, basically. So we all know that the news is fake. The news is owned by the same people. So imagine how fake history is, bro. Guess what? When you look up who owns the history books that every single school in America has, guess what? It's owned by the same fucking people. So let's say hypothetically you wanted to come up with a lie that really, really convinced people of a certain narrative. Well, how would you go about that in the most efficient way possible? Well, I would want to own every single history textbook, and I would want to own every single news channel. And I would just shove it down their throats from the day that they could conceptualize history. I would shove it down their throats in the form of a movie, on the news, and get them reading it in class where they're supposed to be trusting everything their teacher says, so it seems 100% real because someone they trust is saying it, because they don't know the truth either. It's a great Napoleon quote. History is written by the victors. History is nothing but a story agreed upon. Everything is a lie. Everything.
And they manipulate our history books. The history books are not true. It's a lie.
That's right, Michael.
The history books are lying. You need to know that. You must know that. And they manipulate.
So all of our history is fake. There were castles and big, massive buildings in America before Columbus in 1492, before he even got here. So if there were already all these massive castles, massive buildings, and all these people before 1492, then how did they have the technology while Christopher Columbus is coming over on the 3 ships that they used? And where are those ships? How come we don't see those ships? You have Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon in Arizona. So were people from Egypt in Arizona design things the same fashion as Egypt in the Grand Canyon? I mean, think of how far the distance is from that. And how did they travel across to get there? Even if you went by boat, and then you, I guess, went across with a horse and a wagon, or a horse and a chariot, it's going to take you a long time.
I'm not allowed to say certain things, but our world has more secrets than you think. Read our book, link in profile bio.
All of history before 1600 has been falsified. It's all fake. This is from a guy who is a legendary screenwriter, Roger Avery. He said that all of history before 1600 has been falsified. It's all fake. All of history has been changed. About 1,000 years have been added to the timeline in order to justify land claims. He says that the Vatican, the Romanovs, and other powerful organizations allegedly colluded to erase a massive civilization called the Great Tartaria, visible on countless old maps, along with the Mongols and the Huns. He said that Rome actually fell in 1600, and he said here, when you see how history is constantly being rewritten in real time, it's not so hard to believe. Isn't it? Isn't it, Roger?
Because we were killing them.
They had to get several nations just against us. We got jumped.
Well, we did.
Well, let me just say
Definitely hijacked.
And again, well, let me, before you say
go ahead.
We did have government established before they came here. The first president was not George Washington.
They had like 6 presidents before.
Yeah, we had way more.
I know his name. Something Johnson or Jackson.
What's the name?
Andrew?
No. I know his name when I hear it. I'm sorry, I can't think.
I can't think of his name.
We had
either.
6 or 7 presidents. Hanson. Something Hanson. John
Hanson.
John Hanson was allegedly first president of America, and he's the one who gave George Washington his elected him later down the line.
Matter of fact, they say his picture's on the back of the $2 bill.
Yeah, he's the black guy that's on the back of the $2 bill.
That's why they never put the $2 bill in the currency like that, because they didn't want you to see. If you look hard enough, he'll be in there.
He likely the one who drafted it.
Yeah.
In the first place.
He was right there when they signed the Constitution.
Well, I know that, but I'm saying he likely the one who drafted it for real.
Probably so.
Abraham Lincoln was Abraham the Moor, a melanated being whose true lineage stems from his mother Nancy Hanks and his grandmother Lucy Hanks, who were both black women. Of Mayan Grimaldi blood, whose true father, Doug Meade, was airbrushed into a ghost in those washed-out photos to maintain the illusion of a white presidency. Media like Spike Lee's Bamboozled and the film Holiday Inn used blackface rituals as coded reverse psychology to mock our erased nobility. His whole crew was the same. His vice president, Hannibal Hamlin, was darker than a moonless night, yet they were listed as free white persons because white in this jurisdiction is a status of property and standing, not a paint color. The entire early government was a Moorish affair. Figures like Alexander Hamilton were black men of Malayan blood who sought to return the nation to a gold standard. Even John Hanson, a black man, served as the actual first president before George Washington was ever elected. Lincoln used the machinery of the courts to defend the American citizen against being redesignated as Negroes, chattel property, by arguing his clans were Moors, thereby protecting their allodial rights from the dark cloud of Roman jurisdiction. He was not merely a politician, but a dedicated Rosicrucian initiate and a student of Pascal Beverly Randolph, a Moor and the Lord of the World's Rosicrucians, who trained Lincoln in the Ansaratic mysteries to manifest power against the Jesuits. This was the same Moorish Tartarian science that understood Tesla energy and free energy long before the modern world. Our ancestors built the monolithic domed cities with antennas and ornate fireplaces. They required no wood because they harnessed etheric energy. The movie Lincoln Vampire Hunter is a coded ritual where the lead actor even acknowledged the film's connection to Pascal Beverly Randolph. Vampires serve as a surrogate for melanin, the Dracula particle, which, like the mythological creature, is dormant during the day and secretes at night to bathe the central nervous system. Now look at that giant statue in D.C. Rome on the Potomac. That monolithic Lincoln sitting in his chair isn't just an artistic choice. Its massive scale is a blind reminder of the actual 17-foot-tall giant Moors who built those Tartarian structures you see throughout the Capitol before they were erased from the record. They've got you thinking he is just a lanky white man, but he is positioned there as a silent guardian looking directly against the overreaching extension of the Roman jurisdiction and the Jesuit Inquisition he fought to sweep away from our country. And why is he on that one copper coin? Because copper represents the angelic frequency and the conductive power of our ancestors' technology that backs the true republic. They put the Moor right in your face every day to mock your amnesia, the man who tried to keep you an American national instead of a corporate slave.
Oh, sweetie, person of the year. You look great.
I can't believe it didn't go to President clone of Abraham Lincoln.
What have they done to my Republican Party?
Well, even I think they're nuts. But as long as they're cutting education, I don't really care.
And here is my question. Where in the American history textbooks are the first 6 black presidents? I'll wait. And where in the American U.S. textbooks is Abraham Lincoln black? Showing the real Abraham Lincoln. I'll wait. A lot of this stuff was falsified. And it's under judgment because we're tired. We are tired. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I did want to look at this comment underneath the Abraham Lincoln video. And she wrote it in all caps. So let's read this. It says, "My cousin was expelled from public school for doing a paper on blacks in government. John Hanson, Abe Lincoln, and others had proof by print and teaching from our elders and ancestors, taught us, and Jesse James was also a black American Indian who visited and often stayed in Arkansas with our relatives." She was expelled from her public school for writing a paper on blacks in government. Not Barack Obama, but the first 6 presidents of the United States of America. I'm going to let that simmer and I'm going to let that sit right there. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to do a part 2 because there's more American history that we need to look at and debunk. But please like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.